Hello, my name is Sydney Erdman, and I will be training on the prompt hierarchy today. The objectives of this training include define what a prompt is, discuss what prompts are important, define the prompt hierarchy, define full physical prompting strategies, define partial physical prompting strategies, define model prompting strategies, define gestural prompting strategies, define verbal prompting strategies, and define visual prompting strategies. What is a prompt? A prompt is a signal or a cue that a clinician provides a learner to increase the likelihood that the learner answers correctly, thus allowing the learner to access reinforcement. Why is prompting important? Providing prompting methods to our clients are important because it decreases the chance that the client will answer incorrectly. Prompting the correct response will allow the client to access reinforcement rapidly. By providing a reinforcer contingent on a correct response will increase the likelihood that the client will respond in the same manner in the future. Prompting is also helpful to decrease confusion, frustration, and accidentally teaching an incorrect response. Here is the prompt hierarchy. There are 6 main types of prompts. The prompt types include full physical, partial physical, modeling, gestural, verbal, and visual. To the left of the visual, you can see a black arrow pointing down. This is signaling that the prompting technique that is used should start with the least invasive prompts, such as a visual prompt. If the visual prompt is not effective, then the clinician will work their way towards the most intrusive prompt to ensure that the client is successfully responding correctly. This technique is called least to most prompting. On the opposite side of the visual, there's an arrow pointing upwards, but starting at the bottom with full physical and working upward towards the visual prompt. This technique is called most to least prompting. These techniques are chosen by a qualified board-certified behavior analyst after they analyze a client's learning style. Next, I will be discussing the different prompting methods and providing examples. First, we're going to start with full physical prompting. This strategy involves a clinician using manual or hand-over-hand guidance when prompting a learner through a specific task. This is the most intrusive prompt that can be utilized to teach a task. Full physical guidance requires the clinician to manipulate the client's body to achieve the target response. The example that I'm going to use today is hand washing. To provide a full physical prompt with hand washing, the clinician will take their hands and put them over the top of the client's hands and go through the motions of hand washing, such as turning on the water, rubbing hands together, getting the soap, turning off the water, and drying their hands. The next prompting strategy is partial physical prompting. This strategy also requires physical guidance, but to a lesser extent than the full physical guidance. A partial physical prompt would be a slight physical cue, such as a gentle nudge to the elbow or a brief touch to lead the learner to engage in the target response. The example that I'm going to use today is hand raising. When a clinician is prompting the client to raise their hand with a partial physical prompt, they will nudge the learner's elbow upwards and backing off the learner so the learner can raise their hand independently. Model prompting. This strategy can effectively prompt a learner by providing them with a model, meaning that the clinician engages in the target behavior before the learner. The model prompting requires the learner to imitate the behavior that they observe from the clinician. The example I'm going to use today is knocking on the table. If the client errs on the instruction to knock on the table, the clinician will then restate the instruction, knock on the table while providing them with a model prompt, which would mean that they would engage in knocking on the table. They will then wait a few seconds to allow the learner to imitate their behavior and have them knock on the table. Gestural prompting. This strategy provides a learner with a gestural cue, such as the clinician pointing to something in the environment to signal a correct response. The example I'm going to use is finding a car. When the clinician provides the learner with instruction for find the car with items out in a field of 3, the clinician will then provide the learner with a gestural point, such as pointing to the car while stating the instruction. Once the clinician points to the car, the client should then give the car or also point to the car. The next prompting strategy is a verbal prompt. This strategy provides the learner with a vocal, verbal or written cue, or providing the child with a correct answer when prompting the target behavior. The example I'm going to use today is asking the client what color while simultaneously holding up a color card. When the clinician holds up the color card, they'll state what color. If the client errors, the clinician will then prompt the learner to say the color. So the clinician will say the color of the color card. The client should then respond with the same verbal response, which would be the color of the card. Next is the visual prompting strategy. This prompting strategy provides the learner with a visual cue that signals the correct response. Visual prompts can include a video, a picture, or a visual schedule. Visual prompts can be in the form of a task analysis, which includes a picture strip of all the steps of a specified behavior. The example I'm going to use is daily activities. So for the visual prompting strategy with a daily schedule, as you can see to the right, will guide the learner through their day. So when the first task of the day is morning group. So when the client sees their daily schedule, they'll see that the first picture is morning group. When morning group is done, the client will then look at the visual schedule and see that is group time. This visual schedule will be utilized throughout the entire school day for the client, and they can reference the schedule to know where they need to go or where they need to sit within the classroom. And these are my references. Thank you.